You got to play him. You got to roll him out there. You took him as your running back 2 at the very worst, maybe your running back 1. Nut up on your decision when you drafted that rookie, and everyone was like, oh, shit, at your draft. So just do it.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey, guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah. So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another edition of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I am your host, Nick Schreck, and joining me is my long-lost friend. It's been a while since we've been on the air together. Matt Rodgers. Rodgers, how we doing?
Schreck, what is going on? It has been a while since we podcasted together, and after hearing you do the intro, I was immediately reminded about how much better you are at this than I am.
So. I'm not quite sure better is the right term, Rodgers, but maybe here a little bit more often is accurate, but you would be a lot better if your fantasy week went better this week, right? Let's just get this out of the way because I see the disdain on your face. I know the upset you've been going through. Tough times ahead, 170 points and a loss. Yeah,
I appreciate you giving me the platform because that prevents me from bringing it up like every 5 minutes throughout the podcast. Especially so I heard Vinny and Walsh bitch on the recap yesterday, which I know you'll get to that. Listen to the recap of week 3. Great stuff from Vinny and Walsh. But I heard them bitching about their losses yesterday, and I was sitting on the subway thinking about how, yes, I could have joined you at the top of the league in the 3-0 company. You're the only 3-0 team in our league.
Yep.
We could have both been 3-0. I was feeling good about my team. I've never had a start that good. And I put up a solid 170 points against Joe and take the L. Keenan Allen, Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb, just a little too much for me to overcome. I'm a little bit bitter, yes, but in this comfortable environment that you're allowing me to speak, I feel good about my team. I'm sitting at 2-1 and coming off a 170-point week, man. I mean, it could be worse.
It could be worse. It's a tough loss. There's no doubt about it, but you got to be pumped for the future. Again, 2-1. Realistically, if you played anybody else, you would be 3-0, and it should in theory bode well for your team for the rest of the way.
Yeah, definitely. Pumped for the future. That is something that my therapist tries to put on me at all times. I am reluctant to accept it, and something I'm honestly not familiar with. So I'm going to try and be pumped for the future and hopefully just not be let down as much as I normally am.
Never thought I'd see the day, Rodgers, but here we are with you talking positivity. It is a cold day here on Earth because there's never thought I'd see the day. But Rodgers, as you said, Vinny and Walsh crushed the Week 3 recap. They previewed the Thursday night game for those of you guys that have fantasy players going. So we're not going to touch that game here today. So listen to that. And if for some reason, guys, you do waivers on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, 1, you're idiots. 2, if you haven't done them, listen to the podcast. They talk about some of that good stuff as well. You should be doing waivers processing for Thursday morning early. I don't know why you guys are fucking rushing through it, but I'm in some leagues that do it. I just there's literally no point to it. So it upsets me when I see it.
It sucks. I'm in one league that does it, and it's like it's too much. I don't know what's going on yet. Let me get over the hangover of what just happened in one day.
Yeah, it's immediate. Or you have a day at work where Monday you go home, you watch Monday Night Football, whatever. Your day gets fucking crazy, and next thing you know, you're like, holy shit, you go to bed, whatever. It's a long day. You have to go out to the bar, and the next thing you know, you wake up and you're like, fuck.
And you know what else sucks about that too? If you're in a league where like there's a couple more casual members, oftentimes I'll find that owners that don't really pay as much attention always consistently miss the waiver wire period on that Tuesday night. So it kind of sets the tone for a little more disparity in the league there. And I'm just overall not a fan of it. Not a fan of it. So hopefully you do your Wednesdays or your waivers on Wednesday nights and set yourself up for a nice little Thursday team lineup set. So we'll move on with that. Schreck just talked about how you should definitely catch that recap. We're going to be splitting this week 4 preview into 2 parts. So we're already almost a third of the way through the fantasy season. That's pretty crazy. 4 weeks in, after week 4, we're going to be about third of the way through the fantasy season, right, Schreck? It's moving a lot quicker than I thought it would. Now that we're at week 4 already,
it always does, man. It's almost we rush through. We rush through the summer to get here. We get here, and the next thing we know, it's practically week 10, week 12, and we're talking about who's in playoffs, who's not. But let's reel it back and focus on week 4 because we don't want to wish away too quickly. But you're right. It really just the time flies, man, and it sucks. But we're happy to have it here. So let's fucking rock and roll. But before we get into it, Rodgers, we want to give a shout out to MyBookie. They're the podcast sponsor here for Let's Talk Fantasy Football. And I know, Rodgers, the devil's in the details with you. We know you like to spend money, and you spend money to make money. And if you found $100 on the street, we know you'd pick it up. You definitely wouldn't keep walking. Let's be honest, you probably wouldn't find $100 on the street in New York, but if you did, you're definitely not going to leave it there.
Right, and someone's coming for it. That I know.
Yep, so you might as well take the money. And, Rodgers, when you keep picking winners every Sunday, why are you not betting on them? So that's why you go to MyBookie. It's fast, easy, and they pay you when you win. So let's face it, where you're betting is just as important as who you're betting on. Use the promo code Let's Talk to get a 100% sign-up bonus up to a $1,000 deposit. All you need to do is find 10 $100 bills, Rodgers, and that's a free $1,000 deposit to MyBookie, and then they're going to match it. It's a win-win.
Yeah, you sound like my therapist again. This is a free session for me right now.
All good things, Rodgers. Keep venting, keep letting it out. The great thing is we don't charge you for it. So we'll let you vent, and this is the free session. Take that money you would have paid as your copay, put it into MyBookie, and let's go for the Packers tomorrow night, right? Big game.
Hell yeah.
I know you're pumped, so take a look at the odds and let's do it. So really one big news piece for us, Rodgers, is Melvin Gordon. Guys, we're recording here Wednesday night, September 25th. We get the news that Melvin Gordon is officially going to report to the team. And again, we'll believe it fully when we see it, but that seems to be the consensus. They don't expect him to play this week, but he's going to be back with the team. A lot of dominoes to fall here, right? I want to say I'm going to save it for the Chargers, but, on a high note, what happens with Austin Eckler? Does the team put Melvin Gordon right in? Do they hold him out because they're pissed and leave him on the bench? A lot of potential fallout for the Chargers because Austin Eckler's look really fucking good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there's some people, especially Walsh, that we were talking about today, says Eckler he thinks is the better back. As a guy that drafted Le'Veon Bell on the faith that something like this would happen last year, I'm a little bit bitter. But at the same time, if you had the balls to take Melvin Gordon in like the 6th or 7th round, which is where his ADP was when this was an issue, congratulations. A lot remains to be seen, like you just said, but your bet paid off. Speaking of MyBookie, right off the bat right there, your bet paid off, and hopefully your team is good enough to sustain some patience with this. And, it could really be something that pushes you into the playoff conversation if you're struggling or, sitting at sexy 3-0 like you are, Schreck.
Hey, good start. We'll see if my luck can continue. Didn't feel great about the win this week, but a win's a win. I'll take it. And hopefully the trend continues. We got to move away as far away as we can from 10th place there. Because that is not a great place to be. Been there twice. Hoping to keep it at 2 for the foreseeable future. Rodgers, let's jump into the first half of the Week 1 games here on the Part 1 preview. Bye weeks for you guys, the Jets and the 49ers. So obviously we're not going to be touching on them this week. But let's kick it off with the not-so-good Washington Redskins and the slightly better New York Giants. 1 o'clock Eastern game, Rodgers, and let's start on the Redskins side of the ball. We talked about it pre-podcast. We're not going to waste time on guys here that we don't think are relevant, right? Or guys that – so you hear us breeze over stuff, guys. It's for a reason. And I think the Redskins-Giants is a perfect example of how that's going to go. On the Redskins side of the ball, quite frankly, I don't really care who the quarterback is. They say Case Keenum's the starter. He's in a walking boot. Probably going to be Dwayne Haskins. But for fantasy, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think you're right. Everything stays the same as far as that goes. You're not going to devalue the guys we're about to talk about or value them more based on a quarterback change. Everything's consistent.
Correct. And the running back spot, and you could almost call him a wide receiver, Rodgers. For me, it's Chris Thompson. Adrian Peterson is a borderline running back 4 touchdown dependent dude who has been not great. Chris Thompson, 5.3 catches on average for 64.7 yards through 3 games in PPR. He is worth it. He should be in your lineup.
Yeah, I agree. We saw in this Monday night game, it was kind of hard to gauge the entire team and what they were doing with the Bears and where they were. But they had some drives where they were trying to feature AP and feed him a little bit. Yep. It's just not there. They're going to be playing down a lot. That is not where AP at this point of his career will excel in your fantasy lineup. He's only getting 10 to 12 carries per game. I don't really see that going up really that much. Chris Thompson looked more effective. He's the guy where, you're playing the upside there. PPR leagues especially.
Yep.
That's the guy that can get into the flex conversation, especially in this drought of running back pool.
100%. It's all PPR, right? If you're in a standard league, then it's a totally different conversation. But for PPR guys out there, Chris Thompson has the upside without question. At the receiving position, Rodgers, I think for me, the only person I'm interested in is Terry McLaurin. At least 5 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown in all 3 games to open his rookie season. He's a wide receiver 3. Richardson has scored in back-to-back games. I can't get on board.
Yeah, no, I'm not buying into that. We've seen Paul Richardson in better situations, on better offenses with better quarterbacks. I'm not buying it. Terry McLaurin is the only guy that I still do think is a must start. He's got a touchdown each week going forward against the Giants. I don't think that should change. They've been getting pretty gutted on receivers lined up outside, and that's what Terry McLaurin does. The only guy that I still, especially if Dwayne Haskins, this is like where I get a little nitpicky in deeper leagues. I still have some faith in Trey Quinn out of the slot right there. If Dwayne Haskins is going to come in, not starting him at all.
Yep.
But if you're in a league, like a 12-team league where the waivers are completely gross and you got some guys that you want to get rid of that aren't really doing anything, I think Trey Quinn in a PPR situation, we've seen him be featured a little bit with Case Keenum so far. That's just a guy that I think at some point could have flex value on bye weeks. And again, that's a stretch, but just a radar thing.
Cool. Good guy to get on the radar. We have seen some really shit waiver wire guys when you send us questions and we ask who's available. We've seen some bad spots. So definitely someone to consider, something to look at. And I think you just spin the tight end wheel. It's not Vernon Davis for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm in some leagues where I might have to actually start Vernon Davis this week, which kind of sucks. Luckily in that league, Will Dissly was just dropped for some reason. We'll get into that later. But after watching that Monday night game, the Jeremy Sprinkle concerns are real, and watching Vernon Davis hurdle gap of air doesn't really bode well for what he could bring to the table for you. So yeah, I agree.
Man, it doesn't really get you going like those sex hotlines, does it?
Yeah. Oh no. I love the sex hotlines, especially when Walsh is on the other end of them.
Oh, I know he really gets you going, but that's more for the therapist than it is here for the podcast.
Exactly. He had to get through college somehow.
It's all about the money, all about the Benjamins. Let's talk about the other side of the ball here, Rodgers. The New York Giants, Daniel Jones, aka Danny Dimes, aka not Eli Manning, leading the charge here. A total. I don't even want to say streamer. I'll say streaming candidate against a very bad Redskins team. He looked good last week. He could be an option if we took a question this just maybe today or yesterday from someone who had a shit QB spot, was looking to trade for a QB, and we kind of, as a consensus, said we'd rather roll with Danny Dimes than trade too much value away to get a QB.
Yeah, I'm going to get into later a little bit of some sleeper streamers that I think are fine. Don't be trading for a quarterback at this point. Daniel Jones, I like him this week. If he was going against anybody but the Redskins, I would speak more to my hesitance on him.
Yep.
We saw him come from behind against that Buccaneers defense that sucks, and those teams always seem to get into some shootouts.
Yes.
I like Danny Dimes. I think that he's a speculative situation. I don't really see, unless you absolutely need to start him, why you would pick him up and own him, if I'm being honest with you. Unless you're the guy that's really gutting the bottom of that streaming pool, I don't really see that you can trust that full on, especially with this Giants team that is still kind of figuring itself out and then loses Saquon.
Yeah, I look, I'm with you in the matchup is what makes him more appealing here this week rather than your every week no brainer guy. But the matchup is enough to take away the hesitancy for now. That'll be next week's episode, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to touch on him a little bit more, 2 rushing touchdowns. Obviously, that may never happen again in his career. He did look a little more fleet of foot, obviously, than Eli is. Then again, so is my grandma. But, I think that is there a little bit more than some other quarterbacks, like, say, Goff and things like that. But, unless you absolutely – I'm not picking him up unless I have to put him in my lineup this week. That's what I'm saying.
Yep. No, I have no problem with that at all. Let's talk about the running back situation, right? Because this is kind of where Walsh got screwed, right? With Saquon goes down. We thought he was down early in the game, comes back in, is okay, then goes down again, and obviously now is out. He's about a 4 to 8 week return timeline. He's supposedly getting second opinions, but I think a lot of that's going to be dictated by how the Giants are, right? If they're winning games and competitive, he comes back a little quicker. If not, there's no rush. There's no reason to take the chance of re-injuring a talent like him, which means Wayne Gallman is the guy, right, in that backfield, who was, if you guys have already done waivers, likely the number 1 waiver pickup in your league. if your waivers have not gone through, he is likely going to be the number one waiver pickup. So if you have that high priority, that's odds are where you are going. What do you expect out of Wayne Gallman, Rodgers? Because Saquon he's an elite talent in and of himself, right? It's not necessarily fully indicative of that line, that offense. He's just great.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to touch on an accidental pun that you made when you said Saquon's hurt and there is no rush. I thought that was kind of funny. So if you listen around the fantasy community, people are like, Gallman, forget it. Kind of like a low end flex play. Don't really expect much from him. I actually am on the other side of that. It's a little bit contrarian. Okay. I think that Wayne Gallman is something, especially, again, we just talked about this matchup. The Redskins are garbage.
Yep.
I think that this is someone that you can plug immediately into lineup. And here's why I will stand by that, right? So Wayne Gallman has been a backup since his rookie career, right?
Yeah.
Saw him get some starting work in his rookie career when the Giants' offensive line was considerably worse. Right now, they are the 8th best run blocking defense, or offensive line rather, in the NFL, right? This is the first time in at least 2 or 3 years that you can say that the Giants won't be facing completely stacked boxes, whether Saquon is in there or not. People, I think, are going to respect Danny Dimes a little bit.
Yep.
He played 63% of the snaps last week, and he had a very disgusting total. I think it was like 5 carries for 13 yards, right? But in 2017, when he was a rookie and he actually got some featured time, he had 111 carries for 476 yards, averaging 4.3 yards per carry. He got absolutely no red zone work. And if you remember back in those times, he was a guy that was in flex consideration for fantasy. Got no red zone work. It's slipping my mind who was vulturing. It might have been like Peyton Hillis. I don't even know what the Giants were doing back then. But he was getting absolutely no red zone work. He had 34 catches. He's involved in the passing game, 34 catches for 193 yards. There's really no one else there to mess with him. I think that he will get a decent workload. I think that this will be a game where the Giants are running a lot of plays, not so blowout against the Redskins like we saw the Bears do on Monday night. And I think they will want to establish this run with Gallman and give him a shot to kind of step up and show what he's made of. And another thing that I just want to touch on real quick, in 2017, when he averaged that 4.3 yards per carry, there were barely any. I think what I read was only 2 plays over 20 yards on the ground, which shows you that he's not big play dependent. He can actually get down on the ground and grind there. So with the running back pool the way it is and some sketchy wide receiver matchups that we're going to talk about in a little bit, I'm on the high side of Wayne Gallman and actually will kind of buy into his floor of like 12 PPR points this week with the possibility to find the end zone.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you make a compelling sales pitch. I'll give you that. It almost feels like you gave a big presentation today and felt really good from it. But
yeah, that's right.
It's a hell of a sales pitch. I mean, I don't know. The floor at 12 may be a little rich for me. I like the upside. I'm not going to disagree. Again, it's the hope. But running back, like you also said, is shit, right? We've looked at teams. We know teams that are in very, very bad spots on guys that they drafted that they thought were going to be just fine. So some of us are well off. You may be in a spot where Gallman could be your guy because we really and correct me if you disagree. I feel like we haven't really seen a running back off the waivers so far, right? That's like that league winning. Like we usually week 1, 2, 3. We usually somebody that's like you always want to win, right? But you almost don't mind losing week 1 because if you end up at the bottom of the barrel, you have a shot at the guy who is the guy, the one who can be that horse that drags you up the rankings, maybe gives you a shot at a championship run. And we really haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, you're right. And I think more like, so when you look at like you're referring to in the past with like, say, James Conner, Jalen Samuels type guys, whatever it may be, I think that Wayne Gallman could be a guy where, especially if you're in a precarious running back situation, where he could get you there and possibly win your league, having no value after week 9 or whenever it is that's comes back. So he could be a guy that gets you into the playoffs. And I really do believe that it's not out of the realm of possibility for Wayne Gallman, especially against the Redskins, to have 13 to 15 carries and 4 to 5 catches. And there's a possibility he finds the end zone because there's no one else there. And he will not be facing a bunch of stacked boxes like Saquon was. So I would be shocked if he got less than 16 touches. And I think that 4 or 5 catches comes in that PPR. I'd put his over-under at like 12.5 for me. And I think that's something really great that you can find off the waiver for sure.
I'm sold, Rodgers. I'll invest. Just tell me where I have to sign. Unfortunately, I don't own any shares of him, and I definitely am not going to own any shares of him in League Awesome. But
Oh, because you're in first place and you're not going to get him off the waiver, Schreck? Cool reminder, dude.
Thanks for pointing that out for me, Rodgers. I really appreciate it. I feel great. Look great. Let's go team. But yeah, at the running back spot, that's going to do it there, Rodgers. Well done. I think from the receiving game, the only one I'm interested in is Sterling Shepard. He goes 7 of 9 for 100 yards and a touchdown. He's a wide receiver too the rest of the way. Cody Latimer had a concussion, was limited in Wednesday's practice. No interest there.
Yeah, and if you're kind of indecisive on Sterling Shepard because he might be your wide receiver 4 or 5 on your team, Redskins already this year have given up 4 touchdowns to slot receivers. He runs almost all of his routes out of the slot, and we saw Danny Dimes hook up with him a little bit on Sunday against the Bucs. So I like that chemistry there.
Big day to come. Evan Ingram, no-brainer. If you own him, he's an every week start.
Absolutely.
Fucking nailed it. Let's pick this game. Giants. Sweep it through. On to the Chiefs versus the Lions, a 1 p.m. Eastern start. We'll start on the Chiefs side of the ball. Lots of love for my Chiefs as always. You're a Mahomes owner. Obviously, no-brainer start. Super, super happy on how that worked out for you.
Yeah. I was a big late quarterback guy, as we all are, and as I usually do, bite earlier when the Budweiser starts seeping in. And boy, am I glad that I actually snagged Mahomes in the 6th round, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right. Because I was one pick right before me. I could only imagine if I was able to snag Mahomes, but here we are. Here we are. So he's an obvious start, guys. If you're playing against him, it's just the way it goes. The running back situation for the Chiefs, Matt, I think is the most interesting. One of the most interesting dynamics I think we're going to talk about, at least on part 1 of the preview, because you've got really 3 guys that could be fantasy relevant depending on health, right? Damian Williams got the knee injury. He was sidelined at Wednesday's practice. I don't believe, deep down that he's going to go this Sunday. So I think Damian Williams misses the game, which leaves it with LaShawn McCoy with the ankle injury. We saw him not play a snap in the 4th quarter because he leaves with that injury after having a nice day. He says he's fine. Every player says they're fine. So we don't know what that really means yet, right? He was limited in practice on Wednesday. So we have to wait and see on LaShawn McCoy. And then you've got Darrell Williams, who Andy Reid came out and said that he trusted him, which was a bit of a surprise to a lot of fantasy owners, as everyone believed Darwin Thompson was kind of next in that pecking order, particularly before the LaShawn McCoy news when he joined the Chiefs. If no Damian Williams, I think Williams goes to a flex play if McCoy is active. If McCoy is not active, I think he's immediately a high-end running back 3, maybe even a low 2.
I was going to defer all of this to you because I've always been a guy that owns a lot of Chiefs running back stock all over the place. I think in our league, like 4 of the last 5 years, I've had Chiefs starting running back. This year, I'm very glad I don't anywhere. And I'll be honest. I'm clueless about this whole situation. So
fair enough.
Defer to you.
Fair enough. Yeah. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens with the health, but just keep that in mind, guys. Send the questions in as we get more clarity on the injuries. We want to compare who your options are, but lots to flesh out there at the running spot. Wide receivers, I really think you can rule out all 3: Sammy Watkins, DeMarcus Robinson, and Mecole Hardman.
I agree. I mean, there's guys that you're forcing yourself into playing that we'll talk about later. Guys like Stephon Diggs and like maybe some of like the upper end Jaguars, Emmanuel Sanders, and whatever league you are. These guys have as much upside as any wide receiver could in football. So.
Yeah, and it's crazy. You look at Sammy Watkins, who he just after that big explosion, he's still integral. He's still a guy you need to roll out there. He just hasn't had the touchdowns, right? It went to Hardman and Robinson here, but it can easily go any which way. Really, the whole offense is pretty much a go. Travis Kelce, obviously a go. It's just a running back question mark, so to speak, until we know who the guy is.
Yep, I agree.
So the opposite of rushing through a team because they suck. They're just too good to really call anybody out. Rodgers, let's talk about the Lions, where I think it's less exciting, right? More upsetting, depending on who you spent waiver wire dollars on. Stafford. Is he hit your list of QB streaming options here in week 4, playing against a not great Chiefs secondary?
I'll say he's on the low end of it.
Okay.
I don't want to there's some other guys that I like a little bit more with some higher floors. I don't really like Stafford and what I've seen from him and what the receivers have been doing. I think they've been a lot of poor play all around and they're still figuring themselves out. Matt Patricia, I feel like is going to take maybe 4 years to figure out what the fuck he's doing over there. But yeah, everyone's like, oh, Matt Patricia, he's going to bring some value to this team. He doesn't know what he's doing.
This guy sniffs.
Yeah, exactly. So Stafford's on the low end. I think you can probably do better. Someone like Daniel Jones, for instance, that would be where I draw the line. I would put Daniel Jones 1 over Stafford this week. And,
Okay.
Though I do like what you're saying. The Chiefs not a great secondary. Also, Lions should be playing from behind.
Yep.
Home game could do worse. If you're in a 10-team league, shouldn't touch him.
Yeah, that's nail on the head. Running back, Kerryon Johnson. You own him. You're starting him. We watched Mark Ingram go for 3 touchdowns. Again, the Chiefs, for as good of a team as they are, they give up yards. They give up points. The defense is not as exceptional as that offense is. Kerryon Johnson should have himself a nice day.
Yeah, so just want to take a quick second on Kerryon Johnson. I was a huge believer in him after hating every single Lions running back since McKelly Shore days.
What mistake.
Right, exactly. I love him this year. When they got rid of Theo Riddick and started working him more in the passing game, I really thought that was a really good sign for him. He's been facing huge, 8 guys in the box. It's been insane.
Yep.
People are daring the Lions to throw, which is crazy against Stafford. I think that changes a little bit this week when the Lions go down a little bit. I think Kerryon Johnson will be on the field the entire game, and that 2.7, I believe, yards per carry, I think comes up a little bit. I think they try and feature him, open up the passing game a little bit more, and I think this is his finally breakout game. And just to say real quick, his floor hasn't been that bad. People are getting mad at him in that 3rd, 4th round value. They drafted him running back 15 or whatever. His floor's been fine in PPR especially.
Yeah, especially in PPR, he's been fine. Look, I think, and we talk about it every year, and as we go into drafts and stuff, we tend to talk about it on the side of, people when they go to trade get married to, I gave a 3rd round pick, I gave a 4th round pick. Mm-hmm. I think in this situation, people are missing the fact that they're not getting production out of guys that they drafted ahead of Kerryon Johnson. Damian Williams was going before Kerryon Johnson.
Great point.
Damian Williams, James Conner, banged up, that Steelers don't have Big Ben. Obviously things you can't necessarily foresee, right? But when you look at the big picture, things may not be as bad as you think they are on your team. Sure, it's not great, but it may not be as bad as you really think.
That's a great point. And again, Schreck, free therapy session. Thank you. I appreciate it. But to your point too, I mean, I know this is definitely micromanaging the situation for lack of a better term, but they did get rid of C.J. Anderson.
Yep.
Who was a guy that you thought maybe a name to threaten Kerryon Johnson. They have faith in him. They like him, and his inefficiency, if you will, is not a problem to the team and the offense. So that's just a matter of regressing to the mean, I guess you could say.
Correct.
And I think that there are better days ahead for him, and this may be the first indication.
Yeah, and I think maybe not better days ahead, but good days ahead also await Kenny Golladay and even Marvin Jones as we watched him go out there and kind of be the underdog surprise last week as, he goes out and just freaking crushes it. He leads the team with 9 looks. But I think they both bounce back against the Kansas City. Again, a Kansas City secondary, it's not great. You don't need Stafford to be incredible for them to both have nice days. I think they're both wide receiver 2-3 guys here against the secondary, and you can roll them both out there. Yeah,
I agree. You got to play Golladay this week. The only thing, my concern about Golladay, because he's a guy I've liked, and I want to know your take on this real quick,
sure,
is that he's definitely a guy that you should play. He's still a target machine. I'm wondering if he's not that good of a football player. Is he – I'm trying to think of a comparison. Is he – I don't know. I'm just worried. I saw him catch two of 9 targets last week. I don't know. I kind of just when he came out and people were calling him Minitron or whatever the hell they were. Obviously, that's a tall task to live up to. But I'm wondering if he's not a great wide receiver from the little that I've watched of him. If I'm being honest, he's a fantasy guy, like you said, low end wide receiver for sure. Targets are there. I'm just wondering if not necessarily even this year, but just long term all the way around, if that's a guy that is going to pan out to be more Devontae Parker.
Yep.
Or more, I can't think of a really good comparison right now, and maybe I'll come back to a end zone dependent guy. I'll think about it.
It'll hit you, but
yeah.
It's almost like the guy who, and this was a similar situation, right, where he was the wide receiver 2 or the 1A or 1A to 1B, whatever you want to call it, and now has stepped into that role and is the sole focus as the number 1. I kind of shared those concerns less, but somewhat as we went into the season. I was more in Marvin Jones, who really hasn't panned out until last week. Big game, right matchup, whatever. Just based on their ADP, right? Because I think Golladay was a 4 or 5 guy. I don't really remember exactly, but somewhere in that range of ADP.
He was going earlier. I was in leagues where I went running back heavy early on. He's my wide receiver 1.
Okay, so you paid a heavy price for him, and that's one of the things that scared me because I felt like we were drafting him at like his ceiling. Like if you believed he could hit that, like you were never going to get any better ROI. So, and I like Marvin Jones, and sure, he hasn't panned out, but I was concerned about the skill set there as well. So I don't think he's as good as a football player as we have all hyped him up to be or believed he could be. I think he'd be better off as that like 1B, where there's a little less attention on him with someone else there.
I agree. I mean, in my exact situation I'm telling you about, in a full point PPR 12-team league, I take him in the 5th round as my wide receiver 1. If he does not catch 8 touchdowns, that is a failure.
Yeah, it's a problem. That's a huge
because
problem.
He doesn't have enough volume on the possession game to compensate for that.
Yes.
He's got to get 8 touchdowns.
Yep. He's not making up for it. So I share the sentiment 100%. Unfortunately, you're in to ride the wave.
Play him this week. You gotta.
Yep. No question. If you're expecting a big week at all, Kansas City secondary is almost as safe as a bet as playing against the Dolphins. But not quite. TJ Hawkinson, Rodgers, he had one pass in back-to-back weeks after that big week 1 where we saw people go out and blow waiver wire budgets and everything else. I think he's literally just a matchup play right now.
Yeah, I mean, he caught what would have been a touchdown at the end of that Eagles game where he, like, stepped out of bounds or whatever it was. But like you said, if he had, like, 6 or 7 targets in that game, I'd feel better about that little outlier situation where he got fucked. I'd rather take the devil that I know with a high floor, like Vernon. Put it this way, Vernon Davis sucks. Vernon Davis probably won't get you more than 10 PPR points, but I'll be sure he'll get you more than 4 or 5. Yes. And I can't say TJ Hawkinson is going to do that, and he hasn't. Yeah,
there's just no certainty. There's no floor and there's no ceiling, right? He could literally go anywhere across the range, and there's no way to predict it. Again, a bad Chiefs secondary. I just think there's too many other options for Stafford to go for here in this matchup than it beat TJ Hawkinson. I think it was just a matchup play week 1 that worked out.
Yeah.
Let's pick it. I'm obviously taking the Chiefs.
Chiefs, double it.
Yeah, sweep it. All right, Rodgers. Titans versus the Falcons, 1 p.m. Eastern start. Let's start on the Titans side of the ball with Marcus Mariota, who has just been, quite frankly, trash after a week 1 that was okay. But he's otherwise been trash.
Yeah, I will not speak on this.
All right. I think really the only 2 guys you have any interest in this entire offense is Derrick Henry and Delaney Walker. Delaney Walker, if you own him, he's a tight end 1. He should be in your lineup. For me, Derrick Henry, he's a running back 2. I think the game script may go against him in this matchup, but you probably don't have a better option.
Yeah, and I mean, even when they've been in weird situations, they're not really going to Deion Lewis and the other guys that much, so they work him more in the passing games. I feel like this is totally a game where Derrick Henry's going to suck until like mid-4th quarter, and then he's going to have like a 68-yard receiving touchdown for some reason.
Yep, so, for absolutely no reason. This will be the game that Corey Davis, who you nailed in your analysis of the draft of when I picked him, when you're like, you're never going to know what to do with this guy, dude. Like, have a nice fucking life because you have no idea. And I'm just going to hold on to him, right? I'm just going to hold the wave and hope. And we're going to have this same conversation in week 9 when you and I do a preview together and we talk about the Titans, and you're going to look at me and be like, you still own fucking Corey Davis, and you've never played him once.
But that was from experience. That was a guy that's like, you started dating my ex-girlfriend, and I'm like, go ahead. Just wait and see. I'm not like saying like, oh, I see that girl's a little bit crazy or whatever it is. Like, just go ahead. You'll find out eventually.
I'm happy for you, dude. You'll see.
Right.
You'll see what I say.
Enjoy the glow that you have now, and then just wait for the terror.
You'll be in therapy just like me.
Exactly.
Falcons side of the ball, Rodgers, I think the Titans, they were an easy one. Matt Ryan goes 29 for 34, 304 yards, 3 TDs, and a pick. If you've been rolling Matt Ryan out there, you're still rolling Matt Ryan out there.
Yeah, it's been gross. I mean, you've been getting bailed out. Are you a Matt Ryan owner? I'm a Matt Ryan owner.
I own 0 shares of Matt Ryan.
For the first time, I'm a Matt Ryan owner, and I've been watching him like have like negative points after the first quarter.
Heart attack games.
Four
You're like
points at halftime.
You're sweating in your fantasy app. You're like dripping onto your screen. You're like, holy shit.
Dude, for real. And I'm like yelling at myself because I've been like, I was in a draft with Vinny where I was just like, oh, that Matt Ryan value in the 9th round, like suck on that.
Yeah.
And then I'm just sitting there just like, oh, no. So here's what I'm going to say about Matt Ryan. The book is out on Matt Ryan for the last 6 years. It starts at home in the dome, start and put him in your lineup. I am going to say that I want Matt Ryan insurance, that I think Matt Ryan is teetering on matchup-based, especially when he is on the away side of the ball. And if you are a person where Josh Allen is still out there, or if you're into Daniel Jones and you like that, I like packaging him with guys like that, Kyler Murray, guys that are more high upside that you can actually maybe one day convince yourself to start over Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
But I think Matt Ryan is getting to a point where And I'm speaking to you out there, whoever you are, if you're a Matt Ryan owner, maybe he's gotten you by. Tell me in the fantasy playoffs, he's on the road. I'm not going to look at his schedule, but he's on the road in Carolina that you're feeling good about that shit because you're not. So get some insurance, I think. And I think if you can afford the roster spot, that I'm trying to take some sort of upside young quarterback to compensate for him. I am.
If you own Corey Davis, cut his ass and get some QB insurance is what
Hell
Rodgers
yeah, man. Something that you could actually fucking use.
Yeah. No, 100%. We're on the same page. He is Ben Roethlisberger, right? His home and away splits are fucking just incredible. The stats do not lie. They are different QBs on the road than they are at home. Unquestioned.
And if you watch that primetime game against the Eagles, god damn, dude, that was gross shit.
And you take years off your life, guys, playing fantasy football, especially owning Matt Ryan. It's just don't do it to yourself if you don't have to. But he is home in the dome here this week, so Matt Ryan can go in your lineup. Still may upset you a little bit, but it'll work out. At the running game, talk about being upset, Rodgers. Devontae Freeman, you want to say he got his life back on track, right, in week 3. He makes you feel a little – I'm a Devontae Freeman owner. I believe in Devontae Freeman coming into the year. Health to me was always the issue with Freeman, right? We lost Tevin Coleman. There was no reason he shouldn't be able to get it done. And really, he hasn't been able to get it done. He had 90% of the offensive snaps this week, but Ito Smith played, I think, 3 before he got a concussion. So he was out. I guess he's a running back, too, against a good Titans run defense. I think it depends on what your other options are. I don't think you feel good about having to roll him against the Titans here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think he's got no rushing TDs right now. I think this is the weekend that you can – I think if Devontae Freeman puts out a bust, this is when you can actually consider sitting him. His carries have been trending upward. Here's a true story, Schreck. I'm going to tell you real quick, and the listeners. I went to the 2017 ESPYs.
Yep.
Went to the bathroom, a little bit wasted, drinking some gin and tonics, go up to the bathroom, wash my hands at the sink. Devontae Freeman is right next to me. And I always love Devontae Freeman. Washes his hands. I say hi to him. I go for the paper towels. Devontae Freeman goes for the hand dryers. Never drafted him again. Never owning Devontae Freeman again. I judged him on that. Not a hand dryer guy. I like a little cloth on my damn hands. And since then, he's not been that great. Not been that great. That's a true story, by the way. True story.
Something going on at the ESPYs there with the hand dryers. It's you had the inside scoop, and so far you've been spot on.
But joking aside, this is if he does not put forward something substantial this week, I am looking for other options going forward based on like Wayne Gallman. If I own both of them, Wayne Gallman has a good week this week. I don't know who the Giants play week 5. You got to start to consider not let him anchor you down. We've all been there where you have that guy you draft in the 3rd round dragging you.
Todd Gurley, 2nd round pick. He is a prime, which we'll get to, but like he is a prime example of that whole fucking thing where like because you drafted him, like, and he is even more frustrating to own than I think Devontae Freeman because I think we're going to get some Devontae Freeman clarity. Yeah. I mean, you're right. Writing's on the wall for Freeman but here's the thing though. I also look at on the other side of the coin is that Freeman has better opportunity to step the fuck up. Yes. Whereas Gurley just doesn't look good if you watch those games. Gurley's workload, he's on a pitch count. We all hear about that all the time. We'll get into that later. But Freeman, that's why I'm saying this is the week where I am deciding what his role is on my team, especially as the bye weeks come through. Yikes. Let's jump over there to the receiving game, Rodgers. Julio Jones. Appears we were all too low on him going into the season. I think he's arguably going to finish as a wide receiver number 1 across all leagues. Touchdowns, points. Unquestioned starter.
Yeah.
there's not really much to say there. Calvin Ridley had a bit of a down performance there. Offensive coordinator Dirk Cutter said it was his fault for not including Ridley more. I expect a bounce back here against the Titans at home. I think he goes back to his 6 to 10 targets a game. No worries.
Yeah, I like that too. One target on the day, they addressed the issue. That's an outlier in the situation for sure.
And I think Sanu is also the outlier, right? He's going to go back to being, I think, fucking irrelevant.
Yeah, I think though he could be owned because Ridley's a little bit banged up. Okay. I don't hate with some wide receiver 3. I mean, there's worse offenses to own a wide. If you got a guy that owns Danny Amendola, we didn't talk about him for the Lions. Sanu's a better own, especially with Ridley being slightly banged up. I'm
okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the own, just not in your lineup. No. Hoop Daddy, extremely TD dependent, gets 2 last week. He's a back-end tight end 1 here against the Titans.
Yeah, put it this way. On the tight end roulette wheel, man, he's a touchdown-dependent tight end that actually has scored a touchdown this year. So
yeah. Surprisingly, the wheel has come up Hoop Daddy quite a few times.
00, baby. 00.
There it is for you, Hoop Daddy. Let's pick this game. Are we going to sweep the Falcons?
Yes.
All right, let's fucking sweep the Falcons here. Rodgers, we want to give a shout-out here to MyBookie because if you're the kind of guy that likes to bet a little and win a lot, you should try a parlay. If all your picks come through, you'll multiply your winnings. And no matter how you bet, the NFL season is the best time of the year. Use the promo code Let's Talk to get a 100% sign-up bonus. Guys, that's Let's Talk to get a 100% sign-up bonus up to $1,000. So we hope to see you guys there Thursday night for the Packers, Sunday for all these other games. Hope you go win some money. And before we continue on here with the preview of part 1, we're going to take a brief break, and then we will be back talking the Cleveland Browns at the Baltimore Ravens.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, home of the brutally honest fantasy advice you've always needed.
All right, guys, and we are back with part 1 of the Week 4 fantasy preview. And we are kicking it right off here with the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. 1 p.m. Eastern start here, Rodgers. We'll start on the Browns side of the ball. Baker Mayfield has also been kind of trash, although I won't lump him with Mariota. A huge disappointment for what everyone expected here as we went into the season.
Yeah, I'm a Baker owner in a couple leagues. Here's what I'll ask you. You dropping him?
I'm not dropping Baker Mayfield, but I'm looking at my other options.
Okay. I mean, I hope you already have. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yes, I do have another option at this point, but I own him in a few spots as well, and not great. Not great.
I'm lucky. I went Baker Mayfield was my only quarterback. Picked up Josh Allen after that week 1 disgustingness, and then started him week 2 and 3, and it's panned out for me for sure. So I'm concerned though. 2 more Baker stinkers, man. I'm done.
Yeah. It's not going to take much for him to go because, like you said, there are so many other options where you can play the wire, and you don't have to carry 2 QBs, right? If you know you're going to stream, you're never going to roll Baker. You might as well put him back out on the wire, and if you want to get burned by that guy again, you can go back and do so. But he doesn't have a good matchup here against Baltimore anyway, so definitely looking elsewhere.
Yeah.
Nick Chubb has been ridiculous for the Cleveland Browns, averaging 20-plus touches over the first 3 games. He played 99% of the team snaps last week, Rodgers. He's a running back 2 here in this matchup.
Yeah, in this matchup, RB2, running back 1 for the year, I think.
Correct.
One of the few factor backs left. I love him.
A guy that a lot of people were concerned about for various reasons has come out and shut the haters up, so to speak. Receiving game, OBJ, Jarvis Landry, both had a team high of 9 targets. Beckham remains a wide receiver 1 here against the Ravens. And I'm a little bit torn on Landry, right? Because I feel like the targets should stay heavy. We look at David Njoku, who goes to IR for the wrist surgery. He's not going to have, or not going to have surgery. I'm sorry, but for the wrist injury. He's been held under 4 catches in all 3 weeks. But I got to think the targets will come, right? He's going to keep getting the targets like he has. I got to think at some point it's going to pop off. I don't know.
So here's what I'll say. I don't think it's at Baltimore where it finally rights the ship. Here's the other thing is that he has not looked good. This is going back to last year as well. OBJ has significantly cut into whatever his role was. It's not as much complimentary as you thought. My issue with Jarvis Landry is he's got the lowest depth per target other than maybe Jamison Crowder in the entire league, right? And what is the difference between the 2 of them? Jamison Crowder had more catches in week 1 than Jarvis Landry has had all year. He's got 10 receptions on the year.
True.
There, Jarvis Landry's entire theory of owning him, and I put him as like a wide receiver 3 going into the year, is that, okay, yes, he may only have 55, 60 yards and like 4 or 5 touchdowns this year, but he should have 6 to 9 catches per game. He's got 10 all year. He should not be in your lineup. Right now, he should not be in your lineup. The eye test is bad. The stat sheet is bad. The targets are there. You're right. But Baker looks like trash. That whole team feels like they don't know what they're doing. Yep. Freddie Kitchens essentially has come out and said, we're not really sure what the fuck we're doing. So you saw that 4th and 9 draw. I was driving through the Lincoln Tunnel with my phone in the lap and watched the 4th and 9 draw. I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? I don't think that he should be starting in your lineup, especially this week. If he were to put together a 6-catch week against the Ravens, then maybe week 5 I'm putting him in. I'm done with him for the short term.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all. Again, it's just, I don't know. I get caught up, like you said, he looks like trash. It's one of those where I get caught up in the targets, right? Where I'm like, oh, the volume's there. Like as trash as Baker is, but unfortunately the stat line doesn't always tell the full story, right? Especially there with the 9 targets. That doesn't tell the full story. Just because they're there doesn't mean he's going to do something with it.
Right. And let me put a little in a vacuum right now. So we'll talk about him later. But if I were to tell you in a given game that, especially with the way these teams are in their matchup, Jarvis Landry will get 9 targets in this game.
Okay.
Mike Williams will get 8 targets in his game. Who would you rather play?
I'm going to play Mike Williams.
Because his targets are more valuable targets.
Correct.
Because they're going maybe in the end zone. They're going at further than 5 yards from the line of scrimmage.
You could tell me Mike Williams is going to get 5 targets, and I would still, because of the more value, I'm still going to roll Williams. So,
So there's a lot of guys that I like more than him, and I think that if I'm not going to do my weekly rankings, but I don't think that Jarvis Landry would be in my top like 35 to 40 wide receivers this week, especially with the worst matchup argument.
The matchup, you're right. The matchup is total trash. Again, I don't know that I even believe Baker rights the ship for fantasy, which obviously doesn't translate to good for Jarvis. But I think you've talked me back all the way around on Jarvis. Just even in the future, I hope he gets his shit together. I just don't know that he will. That's it on the Browns, right?
Yeah,
totally slam dunk. The Ravens side of the ball, a lot of good, right? Lamar Jackson has been nothing but a stud. I think really Walsh and a few other people were always extremely high on him. But other than that, he has exceeded expectations for everybody. He is a QB1 without question every week.
Yeah, and we saw him crash down to earth a little bit in what should have been a shootout, but then that rushing came out, and damn, did he look good carrying the ball. We watched that game.
He's a talent.
Yeah, he's
talent.
Yeah, you're lucky if you got him.
Yep, 100%, and I'm sure you didn't pay a lot for him. Wait on QB. We preach it. Obviously, Mahomes has worked out, but wait on QB. Dak Prescott, I took off the wire. He is a QB1 as well. It's
for sure.
The proof is in the pudding, guys. Mark Ingram looked like his usual self, hit the hole with ferocity, and he was dragging tacklers quite a few times. Not the Mark Ingram I expected this year, but he gets 3 touchdowns. He's got 200-yard rushing performances. He's averaging 5.97 yards per carry. Incredible to me, quite frankly, but the Ravens just are clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, stud. I was not a Mark Ingram believer as much as he's been performing. Here's a question I'll ask for you, Schreck. Are you looking to trade Mark Ingram?
Yikes.
I just think that if you got these guys in the running back pool, depending on your running back situation, Mark Ingram, and I could be wrong, he could be, a running back, high-end running back 2. Drink that White Claw and get back to me.
I think it depends where the rest of your team stands, right? Like, can you turn Mark Ingram into 2 guys? Because for what you paid for him, I don't even remember where he went off the boards, but I want to say
like in the 5th roundish.
Yeah, 5, 6. It sounds kind of where I was thinking. Mm-hmm. So for what you paid for him and based on what his performance is, you should be able to turn him into value for your team elsewhere, right? So if you're struggling at wide receiver. If we watched Don do a 2-for-1 trade, and we won't get into specifics of that, but obviously he thought, they thought they're getting rid of 1 or 2 guys to get 1 or whatever was a win. I'm fine if you want to. Look, I believed in Justice Hill coming in, right? I owned a ton of Justice Hill. I didn't think that Mark Ingram could really be the guy that we are seeing so far. I still have my deep down concerns that he can carry it through to playoff time to down the stretch.
That's what I'm saying. Week 10, 11, is this the Mark Ingram we see, or are we seeing a 30-year-old running back that, is coming into what we always thought he was. And again, I'm overthinking it. I'm just saying,
Well,
you can do a buy low running back and a solid wide receiver. You could have a guy like Nick Chubb in the second. I don't know, but I'm just throwing it out there. Trade him if you can.
Yeah, I think I'm okay. I think I'm on board with that.
Okay.
Because like you said, it's the long term, right? In the short term, for the next couple of weeks, short of some crazy injury, he's going to continue to perform at a pretty high level.
Right.
But down the stretch, I think the red flags could be there. I'm not saying Justice Hill is the guy because it doesn't appear that he is, but I don't know that it stays Mark Ingram of 2 touchdown games, 100-yard rushing performances. Right. I think there's just too many weapons on the team, and I don't know if his body can hold up to what it is. But I've been wrong on Frank Floor before, and he continues to do it. But we'll get to him.
Yep.
In the receiving game, Rodgers, Hollywood Brown is the real deal, right? He gets a great matchup, I think, against a Brown secondary that is dealing with hamstring injuries. I think he's a low wide receiver too as you go into the week here.
Yeah, as an owner of him, and I liked him coming out, I started him last week for the first time in a week where he was kind of pedestrian. Kind of going back to the Mark Ingram thing, the Ravens have played some pretty bad defenses those first 2 weeks. Week 3 was the first time they kind of – I mean, I'm not saying that the Chiefs were phenomenal in what they were doing, but they kind of had a better plan, I guess, if you will. Speaking to what we spoke to before, this will be the week where I can really gauge Hollywood Brown as, like you said – come out again. His snaps are going up, obviously. Targets going up. He got himself bailed out with a pretty long catch at the end there, like a 20-something yard catch.
Yep.
Pretty lame total. This is the week where, go face that banged-up Brown secondary and put up, a buck or whatever it is, or at least score a touchdown, and now I know what you are.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I don't think there's anybody else I'm interested in the receiving game, minus Mark Andrews, who, again, in a year of – surprising tight end, I think, performances so far, right? We typically say it's like the top 4 consistent, and then we're kind of like spin the wheel. And I think there's been a little bit more consistency on guys you can, with some confidence, roll out versus spinning the wheel. And Mark Andrews is one of those guys.
Mark Andrews is going to finish his tight end 1 this week, by far. My thing going into this year was that Mark Andrews is going to lead the Ravens in targets. I still think it's going to happen. The Browns have faced 2 back-to-back opponents, Jets and the Rams, with no tight end, with Tyler Higbee being hurt and like the Chris Herndon situation. Delaney Walker went on a fat day for 2 touchdowns against them in week 1. I think Mark Andrews feasts up the middle this week. And, Mark Andrews is going to go for like 20 points, I think, minimum.
Big day ahead. I think let's pick them, and I'm going to take the Ravens. Browns lose again.
For sure. Double time. We're agreeing on all of it.
We're right in sync here. This therapy session has got us fucking aligned. Rodgers, Raiders versus the Colts, 1 p.m. Eastern. Let's kick it off with the Raiders and Derek Carr, who I have no interest in whatsoever in any scenario.
Ditto.
Boom. Moving on. Josh Jacobs. Yikes, man. This is one I know they talked about him last week in the preview. Walsh talked about, the opportunities and how they were not psyched on it. He ends up playing just 25 snaps, was supposedly receiving an IV treatment 48 hours before the game due to a head cold. I don't know. What do you do with Josh Jacobs? Because I really don't have a good answer for you.
So here's what I'll say, is that where you paid for him, you took a leap of faith, right? And if you're not going to play him against a team giving up 5.5 yards per carry that the Indianapolis Colts are, what do you do? You got to play him. You got to roll him out there. You took him as your running back 2 at the very worst, maybe your running back 1. Nut up on your decision when you drafted that rookie, and everyone was like, oh, shit, at your draft. So just do it.
All right. I like the call out. I can respect the shit out of that.
I'm pissed.
No. Hey, man, that's what the people need to hear it, dude. Call them out on their bullshit. Receiving game, Tyrell Williams, J.J. Nelson, Hunter Renfrow. A bit of a mixed bag here, right? He had 3 targets. Darren Waller, who we'll get to in a second, had 14. J.J. Nelson with 5. Renfrow with 4. I don't know who I believe in here either. I think I really believe in Tyrell Williams moving forward. I think he bounces back to a bigger target share than the 3 targets he had. And Darren Waller, I think, are the only 2 I'm confidently rolling out.
Yeah, I agree. Tyrell, the targets and the yards decreasing. What would it take for you to start either of those other guys in the Raiders receiving core? That's all I'm saying. You need to see weeks and weeks upon. I don't even need to own them right now.
No, it's you need some kind of consistency that we're not going to see. I don't think ever, at least in this 2019 season, out of them. Darren Waller, again, the tight end, somehow, at least part one of this preview, crushing it, 13 of 14 for 134 yards. He is an automatic start.
Yeah, Colts have been getting eaten by tight end. If you drafted Darren Waller, again, congratulations. That's it.
Yeah, you're smarter than a lot of us. Flip it over to the Colts side of the ball. Jacoby Brissett, I don't think has any it really needs.
Wrong.
Okay, tell me.
Yeah, sorry, we're talking about streaming situations right now. I like Jacoby Brissett. We had a small sample size like Gallman we were talking about back in the day where he was a serviceable guy.
Yeah.
I think that he is a high floor dude. We see his totals 16 and a half, 16 and change, 20 and high change, right?
Okay.
At home against the Raiders. Are there many better matchups than that? If you're kicking around guys like Daniel Jones, if you're worried about guys like Baker Mayfield, I think that Jacoby Brissett is a over-under type points guy of like 18 and a half this week. There's no reason to think that he's been pretty efficient with the ball. 7 passing touchdowns, 1 pick. I think maybe 1 fumble. I may be wrong on that. I think 2 turnovers. I'm not sure. It's a low ceiling, high floor game with him, I think, and he hasn't even really started to rush that much. So I like Jacoby Brissett in the streaming conversation. I think he's a consistent, like 18-point surefire thing this week at home against the Raiders. Doesn't get better than that. That's me.
All right, there it is. So does that mean you expect big days here from our boy Eric Ebron or the wide receivers? Because we don't know what's going to happen with T.Y. Hilton, right? We don't know if he's.
Oh God, no! I hate all of that. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, I think T.Y. Hilton plays. I know he's not practicing right now. Ebron, I've liked in the past. Ebron's got like 7 catches and 11 targets all year.
Yep.
I don't think Jacoby Brissett needs to find that floor with. Yep. Obviously, if T.Y. Hilton goes, my opinion is a little bit different. But I don't think Ebron is a guy that is directly correlating what happens with Jacoby Brissett necessarily.
Okay. Totally fair.
Yeah. Totally that's all I'm going to say. Hilton, you bring up a good point, though. Hilton will factor into what I think. But I also don't think that it's that bad if he doesn't go home against the Raiders. I think it's very nice.
You still think even without T.Y. that he'll be just fine.
Knock him down, but
yeah, fair enough. And we'll jump back to the running game. Marlon Mack. If you own Marlon Mack, you were playing Marlon Mack.
Yep,
unquestioned. Anything else on the Colts side of the ball?
No, that's it.
All right, let's pick it.
Colts. I'll pick the Colts as well. Damn, we're agreeing on everything.
Yeah, we're on this. I just can't get on board with the Raiders. Let's talk Patriots and Bills. 1 p.m. Eastern start. We'll start on the Patriots side of the ball. Tom Brady continues to defy age and anything else that we could possibly fucking throw at him. He's a stud, as always. A little bit tougher matchup here compared to what he's done so far with the Buffalo Bills, but I expect much of the same from Tom Brady.
Yeah, absolutely.
Running back situation, Sony Michel, James White. Sony Michel only had 11 yards and a touchdown, 11 carries in their Week 3 victory over the Jets. James White was inactive. I believe him and his wife had a baby, so he was not there for that game. Was it you who said you were talking about Sony Michel trade deal?
So I don't think that I did, but I feel like I was in the group text with you where I said Sony Michel was going to like feast that entire.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah. If there ever was a week that he should have, I felt like that should have been it.
Should have been it.
They are way back in whack-ass backfield. I mean, James White is inactive. Sony Michel comes out. I think he got a touchdown on the opening drive.
Yep.
You're feeling good. Did literally nothing afterwards. You rightfully so don't want to pull the trigger on Rex Burkhead, even though it's probably one of the better options. But James White hasn't been that great this year either. I don't want to touch the whole thing. All 3 should be owned. All 3 are bye-week flexes at this point. And
welcome to Corey Davis.
Yeah, for real. I mean, like, you don't want to do it. And if you have to, fine. God forbid. Like, James White, I owned him that week 2, whatever it was. He got a touchdown at the very end in garbage time, and thank God bailed you out. You don't want to touch his backfield again. It's getting to that territory. It is.
Yeah, sucks. Whack-ass backfields. We'll have to bring that segment back for sure. Julian Edelman, Josh Gordon. Edelman appears to be on track to play against the Bills, barring a setback. He's a locked and loaded wide receiver 2 here with, I think, the best matchup here in the game. he'll have himself a nice day here with Tom Brady.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to roll Gordon out there too. We got banged up with the finger, whatever it was, got the touchdown. I won't be surprised if Philip Dorsett ends up being the highest scoring Patriots wide receiver in fantasy this week.
One of the most frustrating.
You trying to own him?
Philip Dorsett?
Yeah. I think he's a must own.
He needs to be owned. I'm just trying to think of when I'll feel comfortable putting him in my lineup.
It's either Gordon or Edelman, who how many games have they been on the field together?
You're right.
Is a great – that's like – I mean, we're talking about starting Mecole Hardman and guys like that earlier. If Edelman was questionable going into the week, they say he's fine. If he were to get banged up again, Philip Dorsett is a wide receiver, high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2 right away.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And with Antonio Brown now just gone floating off into the abyss of going back to college and never playing in the NFL again, per his own statement, it really is the Edelman, Josh Gordon, Philip Dorsett show.
Yeah, I think he should be 100% owned. Not finding lineups this week, but he's got the best route to being a wide receiver 2 of guys on a lot of benches.
Nice DFS guy, to say the least. I don't know what he's priced at, but for sure a nice DFS guy to look at. Tight end, we're not interested at all.
No.
On to the Bills side of the ball. Josh Allen, who you said you own at least one share of, right?
Yeah, somewhere. Not this week. Not doing it this week.
No. Well, not a great matchup.
Him and Baker are my streaming combo, and it's really rough this week.
Yeah, not a great spot to be in, but when you stream, that's so. Let me ask you: do you still own both of them?
I own both of them. They're my only quarterbacks. I probably will play Allen.
Oh, so you're not going to cut Baker for somebody else, or is the wire just shot?
Nah, yeah, the wire's kind of shot. You're actually in that league with me, and I can't speak to what it is, but that's Don's Ken Dog league. But
okay,
but yeah, I'm gonna roll out Allen just on the rushing upside. That's what I'm gonna boil it down to.
Okay, so you're hoping for just a pedestrian day to get you by. He doesn't kill you. Just
exactly.
Kill me, and you'll be happy.
Give me 40 rushing yards in the fourth quarter, and we're good.
There you go. We'll take it and call it a day. Frank Floor somehow continues to get it done. It was not a great Bengals defense, but 89 yards and a score. He's averaging 5.4 yards per carry, which I don't know how many years I have to say it where I'm off Frank Floor, and he fucking just continues to do it, dude.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've hated on Frank Gore ever since I started playing fantasy in 2008, and I've been wrong constantly. So I just got to ride the wave that I've been riding and just do it.
Well, I've always been in the mindset, right, of just at some point I have to be right. If I just stick with it, at some point it's got to go south.
Right.
So I don't know. Well, one day we'll be right on Frank Floor.
That's what I'm saying. No Bills this week, right?
No, John Brown, who we like as a whole, gets Stephon Gilmore, nightmare matchup. I don't think you can roll any of them out there with any confidence.
Yep, that's it.
Boom, pick them. I think we're going to sweep it again, Patriots.
Yes, sir.
Let's finish it up with the Panthers and the Texans, 1 p.m. Eastern. Kyle Allen comes out, looks better than Scam Newton, and he gets it done for this offense. Do you need to see it again before you consider him somewhat valuable? I mean, Cam, we assume, is going to come back, right? He's not going to go this week, but is Cam really that far off from coming back?
I don't know. For this week, like you're saying, if I got to see it again to start him, if you're in the Daniel Jones conversation, I like Kyle Allen better.
There you go.
Personally. As far as owning, Daniel Jones probably better owned because, like you said, Cam will be back.
Yeah, at some point, Cam's going to be back. I mean, we'll see. I mean, hopefully he's actually healthy and doesn't come back and do the bullshit Cam stuff he does. At least be healthy if he's going to come back into the game. Christian McCaffrey is a stud, as he has always been. Unquestioned in your lineup. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, Jarius Wright. Do you want anything to do with the wide receivers? Because I think I'm really just a confident in Greg Olsen kind of guy.
Oh, no, dude. I'm all on all of these dudes.
All of them?
So Texans are allowing a 70% completion rate through the air. We saw last week that Samuel and Olsen accounted for half of Kyle Allen's targets. I want to say, I forget what it was. I think Samuel had 7, Olsen had 6. I forget what it was. Loving Olsen with the 2 touchdowns.
Huge.
DJ Moore has had a high floor, actually, when he was with Cam. Had 2 targets. The 1 long touchdown bailed you out with some pay dirt this last week. I expect that to change. DJ Moore runs it out wide. So does Curtis Samuel. Texans have been getting gutted out wide. They're a sneaky bad pass defense. as far as I think Kyle Allen had 26 pass attempts. We saw him throw 4 touchdowns. I think close to 17 or 18 of them were with the Olsen, Samuel, Moore combination. I expect Moore's to tick up a little bit. I think his PPR floor has proved that he's worth starting, and I like him and Samuel a lot this week.
All right. Fair enough. We already talked about Mr. Rick Olsen. Obviously, you're rolling him out there. That's it on the Panthers, right?
Yeah, other than the fact that I might drop Cam in a 10-team redraft league.
Who's your other option?
I mean, I have guys where I could pick up both. I could pick up Kyler Murray. I got guys where I could pick up Phillip Rivers. I got leagues where I could still pick up Josh Allen. And why play this game? Cam was kind of weak last year. Cam looked like shit before he was ruled out in that week 2 Thursday night. Was it Thursday night game? Yeah. Against the Bucks. Not running anymore. Looks awful in the air. And I'm just saying, I think in like we've talked about in 10-team redraft leagues, threes, Cam, ditch these guys, walk away.
How happy did it make you to be able to start that answer off with Kyler Murray?
Very much so. I've been forcing it in the entire time.
I know.
Reminders on my phone constantly.
Just, hey, now's the time to text the group. Just, hey, Kyler Murray looked good the other day, guys.
Exactly.
Just remember, Kyler.
It's all floors for days, but yes.
Kyler Murray all day, every day for you, Rodgers. Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson, tempered expectations, but I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I'm upset. He was my quarterback 1 prediction this year, so we'll see how that goes. But,
so far, I mean, hey, if Kyler Murray works out, it might be a good alternative number 2 for you.
I like your style, Mr. Therapist.
I gotcha. See, building you up. Just building. At some point, we'll pull the rug out from under you, but for now, we'll make you feel good. Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson, running back fiasco.
I'm pretty sure I read what the aforementioned C.J. Anderson. They worked him out this week, so that shows you their confidence in what they got going on there. No bueno.
Makes no fucking sense at all, dude. Look at your other options. I think that's fair enough. DeAndre Hopkins, you own, you are playing. Will Fuller somehow just always seems to make it, break it, run for the long ball and make it happen. I don't know.
Yeah, so the big plays and the touchdowns aren't there, obviously, this year. He's matching Hopkins in targets. You drafted him on exactly what you thought that he would be right now. His PPR floor is not as shitty as you would think. It's definitely gross to modest. But he's a high-end wide receiver 4 flex play, low-end wide receiver 3. He will find a touchdown soon. That's why you drafted him. You knew what you were buying. And I think this week it happens. It hasn't happened yet, but I think this week it happens. And, own what you did.
He's due. Like you said, it's always the 2 catches for 79 yards and a touchdown is what you drafted him with the expectation of. So at some point it's gonna have to happen. Darren Fells, I want to ask you about, because we talk about tight end situation being shitty, right? And I would like to pump the brakes on the idea of him becoming, I think, a consistent fantasy performer. But he played well, 5 of 6, 49 yards and a touchdown in the win over the Chargers. The Chargers secondary is fucking trash. They are hurt. So the performance lines up. You don't expect that here. Would you rather spin the wheel?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the tight end pool speaks to your question.
Yep.
Right there. And we just saw the week before the Panthers put O.J. Howard down a fat 0.
Yep.
So that's not the buy I'm making right now.
Yeah, do you believe that fantasy football team league should abolish the tight end position?
Oh, hell yeah, dude. 4 wide receivers with a wide receiver tight end flex, but we'll get to that in my manifesto that I'm going to send to the White House by the end of December.
Well, and this will be the last time you hear Rodgers and I on the podcast together, because they'll be shutting down Let's Talk Fantasy Football and Rodgers.
No. It'll be completely nice and fine. I'm just saying I want someone to say something publicly with a big platform that says we should get rid of tight ends in fantasy football. Rodgers is right.
Hey, Donald Trump may just be the guy you need to put that message out there.
An aggressive Twitter finger, man. I mean, he could do it.
Just catch him on the right day, man, and he may share your wish, and who knows? Right. You'll be the guy that led the revolution.
Exactly.
That's it on this game, right?
Yes.
Let's pick it.
Texans.
I'll take the Panthers.
Oh yeah, our first.
We'll go for our first split. But that's going to be it for us, Rodgers, here in part 1. For those of you that missed The Week 3 recap, that is out now live. They previewed the Thursday night game. We know Rodgers and Don, everybody are pumped for the Packers on some Thursday night football. So go check that out. Start sending in your questions. We'll get a question box up on Instagram at some point on Thursday for you guys. And don't ask us 2 minutes before the game, because when we don't answer you and then you get upset, it's your own freaking fault. So you have no one to blame but yourselves, guys. But do you have anything else for the people, Rodgers?
No, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go. Guys, for Let's Talk Fantasy Football, I am Nick Schreck. He is Matt Rodgers. We will catch you on the flip side.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.